Two major defense companies are in a battle for the future of Canada's fighter jet fleet. Sweden's Saab Gripen versus U.S. firm Lockheed Martin's F-35s. This comes after Prime Minister Mark Carney ordered a review of Canada's F-35 contract with Lockheed Martin.
Locked in a trade fight with Donald Trump, you may have heard that the Carney government is reconsidering its multi-billion-dollar purchase of American F-35 fighter jets.
Canada reviews a deal to buy U.S.-made F-35s. The reason for that review? Trump's trade war on Canada.
U.S. weapons manufacturer Lockheed Martin is reportedly pitching new jobs for Canada. But that offer depends on Ottawa sticking to its plan to buy Lockheed's F-35 fighter jets. Donald Trump, you may have heard that the Carney government is reconsidering its multi-billion-dollar purchase of American F-35 fighter jets.
A high-stakes geopolitical drama is currently unfolding in the skies above Ottawa, centered on a multi-billion-dollar decision that will define Canada's defensive capabilities for decades to come. It is a fierce contest for the future of the nation's fighter jet fleet, pitting a titan of the American military-industrial complex against a resourceful, tactically brilliant European challenger. On one side stands Lockheed Martin with its fifth-generation F-35 Lightning II, a platform promising unparalleled stealth and integration with U.S. forces. On the other is Sweden's Saab, offering the JAS-39 Gripen, a fighter that has repeatedly defied expectations and embarrassed superior opponents. This is not merely a procurement process. It is a battleground shaped by shifting political winds and international trade tensions. The conflict intensified sharply following Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government ordering a review of Canada's existing contract for the American F-35s. This reconsideration was not happening in a vacuum. It occurred against the volatile backdrop of trade disputes with Donald Trump, whose administration had launched an aggressive tariff war against Canadian interests, forcing Ottawa to rethink its reliance on its southern neighbor for critical defense infrastructure. The core of the review was simple yet profound. Given Trump's trade hostilities, did it make sense to hand billions of dollars for national security over to the very country actively pressuring Canada's economy? To understand the gravity of this choice, one must first understand the unique, often misunderstood position of the Swedish contender. For years, before serious scrutiny was applied, the Saab Gripen was routinely written off by mainstream defense analysts before the conversation even truly began. It was easy to label it based on superficial metrics: too small, too defensive-minded, and hopelessly outmatched by larger, heavier air superiority fighters. Critics, fond of military metaphors, frequently compared flying a Gripen against modern heavy fighters to bringing a knife to a gunfight. It was viewed as a border patrol aircraft, a budget solution designed for nations that couldn't afford top-tier platforms, rather than a machine built to dominate the airspace. On paper, these dismissals seemed entirely logical. The Gripen is a single-engine aircraft facing off against twin-engine powerhouses. It carries less internal fuel and a smaller payload than its main rivals. Its entire design philosophy was predicated on efficiency, maintainability, and dispersed operations rather than raw, overwhelming force. Compared to the giants of the industry, it looked vulnerable. The McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle carried a legendary reputation as a pure air dominance machine with an undefeated combat record. The General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon possessed decades of real-world experience forged in conflicts across multiple theaters. The Eurofighter Typhoon stood as Europe's collective technological statement, engineered specifically during the late Cold War to counter advanced Soviet threats and, not coincidentally, to outperform the Gripen itself. Against this formidable lineup, Sweden's fighter appeared modest, even restrained. This perception was shaped as much by geopolitical context as by actual capability. At the time the narrative was cemented, Sweden was not a member of NATO. It hadn't fought a major war in generations, adhering to a strict policy of armed neutrality. There was no dramatic combat footage circulating on the news, no sensational headlines of aerial victories, and, perhaps most importantly, no powerful alliance structure pushing the aircraft onto the global stage through diplomatic channels. The Gripen was built for a country with limited resources, a vast territory to defend, and a defensive mindset. Analysts looked at this background and drew a simple, widely accepted, yet ultimately flawed conclusion. This was an aircraft for guarding airspace, not for taking the fight to a sophisticated enemy. It could save money and deter light threats, but it was never expected to win against elite fighters flown by top-tier air forces. That comfortable assumption was violently shattered in 2006 during Red Flag, Alaska. This exercise is not a polite air show. It is run by the United States Air Force, designed to strip away assumptions and push pilots and machines to their absolute breaking point. The The conditions are crafted to mirror the chaos of real combat. Complex scenarios, heavy electronic warfare jamming, restricted support assets, and relentless pressure. The goal is not comfort, but survival and verified effectiveness in the face of overwhelming odds. Sweden brought the Gripen into this unforgiving arena and was immediately assigned to the Red Team, playing the role of the adversary force. The opposition they faced was formidable, a who's who of modern air power. U.S. Air Force F-16 Block 50S, Eurofighter Typhoons, and the vaunted F-15C Eagle formed the backbone of the Blue Team. The Swedish contingent operated under severe constraints, with limited airborne early warning coverage and reduced ground-based assistance. By all conventional metrics, the Gripen was expected to struggle, if not be outright annihilated. What transpired over the Alaskan skies challenged nearly every prevailing assumption built around the aircraft. The Swedish pilots, realizing they could not win a contest of brute force, utilized their aircraft's unique technological philosophy. Instead of relying on traditional, constantly active radar that lights up a fighter like a beacon to enemy sensors, the Gripen formation relied on its advanced, proprietary data link network. In a display of tactical brilliance, only one aircraft would briefly activate its radar to paint a picture of the battlespace, instantly sharing that data across the secure network to the rest of the group. The remaining Gripens stayed electronically silent, ghosts in the sky, avoiding detection while maintaining complete situational awareness of their targets. This approach fundamentally altered the engagement dynamics. Situational awareness became a shared resource rather than a centralized bottleneck. The opposing pilots, flying some of the most advanced fighters in the world, often had no idea where the Gripens were until they were already being engaged. This silent assassin tactic turned a perceived weakness, a smaller radar cross-section and less raw power, into a decisive asymmetric advantage. The results were nothing short of startling. According to reports that later emerged from Swedish sources and flight test engineers present, the Gripen blistered the skies on the very first day. They recorded 10 confirmed air-to-air kills during the opening phase of the exercise. The victim list included 1 Eurofighter Typhoon and 5 of the highly capable F-16 Block 50S. Most shockingly, the Swedish contingent suffered 0 losses during this period. In one particularly intense close-range engagement, a single Gripen pilot reportedly managed to defeat 5 F-16s alone, a scenario that traditional performance charts and combat simulations would almost universally predict going the other way. Yet, the Gripen's success wasn't just about kill ratios. It stood out in another critical area that often gets overlooked in flashy comparisons: reliability. It was the only aircraft type that completed every single planned sortie across all weather conditions throughout the entire exercise. In sustained operations, where hangar queens are useless, this measure of reliability mattered deeply. Naturally, skeptics were quick to point out that these glowing figures came primarily from Swedish sources. Caution was a fair response. Military exercises can be shaped by specific rules of engagement, scenario limitations, and reporting biases. Independent confirmation was required to truly validate the aircraft's capabilities. That confirmation arrived from an unexpected source: Norway. If these deep dives into military aviation history, strategic defense acquisitions, and the unseen technological battles that shape global power dynamics fascinate you, consider subscribing to follow the unfolding story of air power in the 21st century. Norway provided the crucial third-party validation in a separate set of engagements, pitting 3 Swedish Gripens against 5 F-16s from the Royal Norwegian Air Force. Norwegian pilots are trained to exacting NATO standards and operate the same aircraft used by the majority of the alliance members. The results were a stunning repeat of Red Flag. In the second round of engagements, the Gripens dominated. The third round finished with a lopsided 5-1 score in favor of Sweden, with Norway scoring only a single kill. These were not marketing materials. These were results publicly recorded by a NATO ally, demonstrating that the Gripen could consistently match, and often outperform, a fighter with extensive real combat history from the deserts of Iraq to the mountains of Afghanistan. While the exercises turned heads, some skepticism lingered. Critics argued that exercises are still controlled environments, lacking the supreme uncertainty, political pressure, and lethal consequences of real-world operations.